Hello, this is Joe Yuhan here, talking about a novel strategy to improve hamstring, quad, all aspects of hip mobility, reduce sciatic pain, all through a better understanding of the anatomy of our thigh. So in this, we're going to talk about that anatomy and then some specific and novel strategies to improve especially hamstring mobility, but also quads, hip flexors, you name it, everything into the thigh. And so it really begins with a better understanding of anatomy. And so it's really easy, even for me as an orthopedist, to think two-dimensional and rather robotic. The quads are in the front, they're half of the muscle. Hamstrings are in the back, they're the other half. But it's more complicated than that, A, because we have adductors and other muscles here, but because of the circumferential and fascial nature of our thigh. And so, if you were to cut my thigh down the middle, this is what the right thigh would look like. And there's a couple interesting things to note here. Number one, the quad muscle is much bigger than we realize, hamstring much smaller. Two, the quad actually wraps around almost completely into the posterior side of the femur. It is worth noting that if my foot and my toes were here, it would probably be right about there. And so you've got the quad much bigger, the adductor fairly big, the hamstring pretty small. So that's noteworthy. The second noteworthy thing is there's fascial connections around all of this musculature that affects each other. That fascia both connects the muscle to the bone, but it also helps transmit that force. And so we have fascia around the quad. Not shown right here is where the IT band would run along the lateral thigh. But then you have these fascial septa, plural for septum, which is a fascial separator, but it also links in the lateral border of the quad back into the femur. You have one on the medial side, but then you also have one between the adductor and the hamstring. And so this becomes a mechanism for hamstring tension, because if you have very stiff quads and very stiff adductors, even though you're not feeling tension there, it may be like a Pac-Man effect, compressing the hamstring and causing chronic hamstring tension. And so anything you do, if you try to massage that or stretch that, just by taking your leg and doing that, it's not going to change because the source may actually be in this myofascial stuff here. That's been my experience. That's been an experience of countless other runners and athletic people. And the strategy that I've been using in the clinic is, hey, let's work on all of this myofascial structure to release all of it to take pressure off of the hamstring. And so here's how we're going to do that. But one last thing that we'll note, the other thing besides muscle is you also have right here, this little guy, that's your sciatic nerve. Right up here is your femoral nerve. So people who have a lot of nerve tension, it can be not just that the sciatic nerve is tight or like lacks range of motion, it too can be getting compressed through this mechanism of myofascial tension from the tissue around it. So how do we get this better? The first thing to note, if you stopped here and all you knew was, okay, I want to work all of this, you're going to be ahead of the game. If all you did is like, I'm going to massage, stretch my quads, I'm going to massage, stretch my adductor to get to my hamstring, that's going to be a huge gain for you versus a conventional approach of ignoring the quad, ignoring the adductor, and only trying to do things to the hamstring. But let's try to be a little bit more nuanced and more effective, because standard approaches to treating thigh and even lower leg calf strategies is to compress. And so pretend this is my leg. Well, here comes my foam roller. I'm going to lay on the ground and I'm going to mash my quad with my foam roller. If we want to get this fascia moving, we can't just apply force straight in. All that's going to do is smash on that tissue against the bone. Same thing, if I wanted to free, if my sweatpants were stuck to my leg for whatever reason, if I just smash down, it's not going to free and improve that mobility. I have to put force at a different direction into this tissue. And so you can get some decent effects by mashing the tissue, but I have found that you get better results if you use a different angle where the tissue is going away from the bone. And so I'm going to show you guys a couple different strategies. So again, number one, let's do 3D. Let's get everything. Number two, rather than mash into the bone, can we go normal to or sort of parallel from the bone and wiggle that musculature free? And so the first thing that I like to do is to just take my roller or a ball like this is called the orb, and apply force so that I'm almost peeling the musculature away from the leg. So this is actually really well done in a sitting position. So you just need to have a sturdy wooden solid surface and then enough height where you can kind of hang the leg. But if I get on the inside or on that outside part of my thigh with the ball, that has the effect of, there's the inside of my leg on the right, I'm gonna push that tissue up and away from the hamstring. So I'm working on taking this whole thing and kind of wiggling it like that. That's going to be a more effective strategy than just mashing it in that direction there. Same thing with lateral quad. If I get the ball on my lateral quad, which again is all the way around here, if I get that there, I can drive it up and again wiggle it away from that septum, from that hamstring. And so that's as simple as taking a ball, sitting, and going along from the upper components all the way down to the lower components of the quad where it borders that hamstring, and do various motions. Going in and out, I can do little rotations, I can even add flexion and extension. But the idea is you can do whatever you want if you understand the mechanism, is we want to work the borders of the real tissue, not just mashing the front, but let's get to the sides, and then just try to push away from the bone rather than mash into it. The same then is true for adductor, getting into the inside and pushing that up. There are other strategies we can do, and in previous videos I've shown you guys strategies where you can lay down on the ground and be rolling on the inner thigh. That's pretty good. And the interesting thing is when you do that, you can also impart a little wiggle force of the hamstring going that direction. So that's the take-home message here. Understanding the circumferential fascial nature of this tissue, but then can you apply mobility massage strategies where we take that muscle and free it away from each other and away from the bone. Do that, then apply your strategies. And a great experiment is to do some mobility tests. Do a toe touch, do some sort of straight leg raise where you're feeling your hamstring mobility. Massage this tissue in 3 dimensions, then retest. I think you'll find 2 things will happen. Number 1, you'll immediately have better range of motion without doing anything here. 2, subsequent attempts then to stretch the hamstring will actually get you improvement. And that's what we're all about here. So check that out. Think 3D, mobilize with intention to get better results.